Hi everyone, this is your social studies e-learning lesson for Monday, May 11th. Now to begin with, boys and girls, I have emailed you through your Gmail. I have emailed the pages that you will need for this week, what we'll be working on. We are beginning, this is Unit 4 in Social Studies. It's taking a look at Florida after the Civil War. There were a lot of changes that took place in Florida after the Civil War, and so we're looking at, why those changes happened, what were those changes, okay? The first thing, though, the first page that you should have in the packet that I sent you is vocabulary. So let's take a look at these vocabulary words, please. So we start with recession. A recession is a period of slow economic activity. An industry is all the businesses that make one kind of product or provide one kind of service. Independence is another word for freedom. A dictator is a person who rules a country alone. To enlist means to volunteer for military service. Civil rights are the rights of every citizen to be treated equally under the law. Integration is the act of making something open to people of all ethnic groups. To boycott is to refuse to do business with a person, group, company, or country. You don't need to worry about the second column down here, the right-hand side of the page. I simply gave you this page because it does have all of the vocabulary words and their definitions, which you need to be familiar with. All right, then you're going to start by looking at timelines. And here we have secondary sources, okay? A timeline is a type of secondary source. Right, we spent a lot of time talking about, and that keeps coming up again and again, the difference between a primary source and a secondary source. So a timeline is a secondary source. It says, remember that a secondary source is a source written or made after an event happened. A timeline is a diagram that shows the order of events in history. The date at the farthest left is the oldest date on the timeline. The date on the farthest right is the most recent date. Timelines can show us when events took place in relation to each other. So let's just move down to the very bottom of this page. Okay, this is a really small timeline, but just simply how they're telling us how on the far left is the date furthest back, and on the far right is the date most recent. Now, by most recent, it doesn't mean that, the timeline has to end at, the year, 2020. No, that's not what they're saying. It's just the order in which the dates do go along the timeline is that to the left will always be what is the oldest, and to the right is always what is the most recent. Okay? All right, so here you do see that timeline. Now, this is not new to you. We've looked at timelines before. Again, this is a very basic one, but just the idea that you still need to know how to read information off a timeline. And the other thing, too, is, just pointing out how a timeline is considered a secondary source because all of this is written after something happened. Okay, so again, making timelines a secondary source. All right, that's all you need to worry about on this page. Again, the idea that a timeline is a secondary source, recognizing a timeline, and being able to read information from a timeline. Okay. All right, and then what I need you to do today is you're going to be reading through pages 132. This is Lesson 1, Florida Grows. It starts on page 132. And you need to read through to page 139. So you have several pages that need to be read. So you start out the first part, Florida Grows. You're looking at the growth of industry. Okay, the growth of industry. Hey, remember, an industry is all of the businesses that make one kind of product or one kind of service. All right, so you're looking at the growth of different industries. Then you have other industries to look at. You have the timber industry, cattle, citrus, cigars. So you have 4 really important industries in Florida, and so you need to read about each of those. Then you move into looking at railroads, okay? And the railroads reach across Florida. And 2 men who were very instrumental in helping to achieve that were Henry Plant and Henry Flagler. And so you need to read about each of these men and what they did and how we ended up with the railroads reaching across Florida. And then the next section is called New Faces. Okay, again, just looking at other people who played a part in Florida's history. All right, here it says up at the top of page 139, from the photos below, pick a person you learned about in this lesson, and it says to write a mini biography. I don't want you to do that. Simply all I want you to do here is, because they are showing you 4 different photographs, I want you to be able to go back into the lesson. I want you to be able to identify who the 4 people are. Okay, these are 4 people that you are reading about throughout lesson 1, so that when you see their pictures, I want you to be able to identify who they are. All right, so I do need you to read pages 132 to 139. And what we will do is tomorrow, when we have our Zoom meeting, we're going to go through these pages, talk a little bit about what you have read. But you do need to be prepared by having read it ahead of time. We are not reading it word for word. We're simply going to be discussing it. So please make sure you have done the reading, pages 131 to 139. That's all you have to do with it, is just simply read it and have an understanding of what you read and be prepared so we can have the discussion tomorrow and we can take a look at some of the questions that need to be answered then. Okay? And of course, if you have any questions, you know where to find me, and I'll see you later. Have a good day.